Question 5. What drones do I need to register? Now, if your drone weighs more than 8.8 ounces or 250 grams, and most consumer models do, and is under 55 pounds, so quite a heavy weight, you need to register for an FAA identification number. And the cost for that is a nominal $5, and that's for every drone. You need to place your identification number on the exterior of the drone and not in the battery compartment. The rules have changed recently, so it has to be on the outside of the drone so you can see it. If the drone is under 250 grams, like this DJI Mini 3 Pro here, or a DJI Mini 2 or an Autel Nano, then they are exempt and you do not need to register them. However, you will still need a Part 107 certification to fly a drone under 250 grams, so this drone here, for any form of commercial purpose or any form of monetary gain. You still have to get your Part 107 certificate. Question number 6. What is the Part 107 commercial pilot certification? Well, this is what you need to fly drones for profit or commercial gain in the USA. You need to be at least 16 years old, be able to read, speak, write and understand English, and be in physical, mental condition to safely fly a drone. And then you have to pass the initial aeronautical knowledge exam, which is Unmanned Aircraft General Small UAG. So step 1 is to get an FAA tracking number, and to obtain that you need to create an integrated airman certification and rating application, which is IACRA profile, prior to registering for the knowledge test. So go and get your tracking number first. Then step 2 is to pass the FAA knowledge test. Now, drone pilots need to pass the test, which consists of 60 questions. It tests your knowledge and you need to get 70% or more to pass the exam. With the passing score, you can obtain your remote pilot certification and rating. And the cost of the test is $175 and it is non-refundable. So if you fail it, you don't get your money back. And the average training cost with an outside training company is between $249 and $350. And then you get the mock exams with them and you can take those as many times as you want before you actually sit down to pass your FAA knowledge test. Appointments to take the test need to be scheduled at an FAA approved knowledge test centre. Test takers have 2 hours to complete the comprehensive exam, and it covers many topics, and you can see those like drone law and regulations, flight restrictions, aviation weather plans, airport operations and maintenance operations, to name but a few. And once you have passed the Part 107 pilot certification, you complete the application online for the remote pilot certification, and then you have to wait for the FAA professionals to review each application and check it and conduct the background checks. And then once they've done all of that and they're happy with you, they approve the application and they will send you the pilot certification through the post in the mail. So that covers what is the Part 107 commercial pilot certification. Question 7. How long is my Part 107 valid for? Well, once you have your Part 107 drone license, you'll also be required to maintain the drone registration every 36 months and keep the registration card of the drones with you when you're flying. You also need to keep your Part 107 license up to date by doing an online training course every 24 months. This is done online and there's no charge for the recurrent training. You used to have to go to one of the 800 local test centres every 2 years, but that's no longer the case. It's an online training now and it's not a test. And you make available to the FAA upon request the small UAS for inspection or testing and any associated documents, records to be kept under the proposed rules, so how much you fly. You can get apps to do this. You report any accidents to the FAA within 10 days of an operation that results in any injury or property damage over the value of $500. And before all flights, you need to conduct a pre-flight inspection of the drone to include specific aircraft and the control stations and the systems. So you'll have a checklist of things you need to go through to ensure that the small drone is safe for operation. Question 8. What are the rules of a Part 107 for commercial use? Well, if you're operating as a commercial operator, then the regulations that apply to your operation fall under the FAA's 107 Small Unmanned Aircraft Rule, which can be found below. So I'll go through those, but they're very, very similar to the recreational or fly for fun drone regulations. Now, you must hold a remote pilot certificate issued by the FAA to fly commercially. That's your 107. You must register your drone with the FAA via the Drone Zone website. So that's the drone registered for $5. UAV must weigh less than 55 pounds. Well, that's quite a lot of weight, and that's including the payroll. So you don't see many drones of that weight. You must fly in Class G airspace unless you have an LAN-NC authorization, which we'll talk about in a minute. And you must keep your UAV within visual line of sight. That means you need to be able to orientate the drone at all times. So on a small drone, which is say under 250 grams, they can be quite difficult to see which way they're facing, anything over about 30-40 meters. You must fly at below 400 feet and stay below that ceiling of 400 feet. You must use anti-collision lighting to fly during twilight or evening flights, and you can get little lights that stick on the top of the drone with, say, Velcro, so they can be come off in the day. You must fly at or under 100 miles per hour. Not many drones can fly that speed. Phantom 4 will fly about 60 miles an hour, but you must yield also right of way to any manned aircraft, so it's our responsibility to get out of their way. They won't be able to see our drone if they're flying along, so if you hear an aircraft or a helicopter, it's your responsibility to get the drone down and get it out of their way if it's anywhere near them or on their flight path. And you cannot fly from a moving vehicle and unless it's in a very sparsely populated area, but in essence you can't fly from a moving vehicle. So those are the basic rules for your Part 107. Question 9. What is LAANC? Well, it's a collaboration between the FAA and the drone industry that enables the safe integration of drones into the nation's airspace. So the service suppliers are there to help drone pilots obtain FAA airspace authorizations to operate in controlled airspace below 400 feet. There are various publicly available LAANC providers, including companies like Airbus, AirMap, Airspace Link, Aloft. This is to just name a selection. Now, LAANC stands for Low Altitude Authorization and Notification Capability, and it is integrated into apps for your phone, either on your Android or your iOS phone, to offer commercial and recreational pilots the flexibility for digital and real-time airspace reservation within controlled airspace from an FAA-approved provider. Now, the most well-known app is the FAA B4U Fly app, and it's a simple way for you as drone operators to check the airspace and local advisories before you take flight. It picks up where you are because it's got your GPS on your phone, and it allows you to stay compliant and contribute to safer national airspace by making yourself aware of the advisories and the restrictions in the airspace around you. It's also available on desktop for flight planning. So the process is you can apply to the LAANC and say where you are, and you can apply for the controlled airspace, and that will go to check with the ATC direct via the LAANC. You don't actually contact the ATCs direct anymore. And it also includes all the other areas like national parks, places like Washington DC, where drone flying is prohibited or severely restricted. So that's how you apply to fly in controlled airspace. You now use the LAANC app or systems. Question 10. What is remote ID? Well, the FAA has established a remote ID requirement for drones, and this has been billed as a virtual license plate for your drone in the sky, and it's due to go live on the 16th of September 2023, so not long now. Now, all drones flying within US national airspace will be required to comply with remote ID rules, with very few exceptions. Now, the remote ID is designed to broadcast your drone's position and telemetry. The FAA has released a list of drone models with approved declaration of compliance, called the DOC, for the operations over people and the remote ID rules. Now, it includes consumer drones like the DJI Mavic 3, the Air 2 and the Mini 3 Pro. They've all got the declaration of compliance. For previously manufactured versions of these drones, like the DJI, have confirmed that the pathway to compliance will be done through firmware updates. Now, drone pilots don't need to concern themselves with this deadline, as the drone manufacturers will have to do all of the work and and offer this through firmware upgrades. The final question, question 11. Are the US drone laws different at individual state level? The short answer to this is yes, yes, yes. And there are specific drone laws for national parks and various government agencies for protection of things like marine and wildlife. The list gets bigger every year. So the rule is to always consult official sources and local authorities for your most accurate and up-to-date information for your individual state where you live. Now, here is an example, just a quick example of the drone laws at state level from 2021. Now, there was at least 18 states enacted 25 bills in 2021 addressing unmanned aircraft systems, commonly known as drones. Now, these are all about different types of things, and they may not be applicable to you. For example, look at California, Maryland and Washington, the first ones. They impose certain restrictions on the law enforcement agencies seeking to acquire specific equipment, including drones, from a program operating by the federal government. Florida, Tennessee, Texas expanded allowable drone use for law enforcement. So each state is different. So you just need to check with your local state websites on what the latest drone regulations are, but there's new ones coming out all the time, so within this course I can't cover all of that. I hope this FAA video has given you a clear insight into commercial flying and also hobby flying or recreational flying in the US. It's been split into two parts, about 20 minutes, so it should give you a complete understanding of what you can and can't do and where you can and can't fly. So let's sign off now. If you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to the channel or watch the next video in the playlist or the new videos that we've just recently downloaded. Bye for now.